Hey, good morning guys. So lately I've seen a lot of people asking about the LUX flight controller, where when it's hard mounted to your frame, it's very sensitive to picking up any kind of vibrations. So some of them as soon as you arm it, it'll start vibrating. Others, when you arm it, it looks great. You get a third of the way through the throttle, it'll start jacking really bad, like your ESCs are out of sync, and then you get past half throttle and everything's smooth, and then once you get max throttle, the same thing. So it really screwed with me bad for a while because I had no idea what was going on. And I've got 3 different quads now, I've got 4 quads that all have the LUX flight controller. 2 of those ran perfectly, and then 2 of them ran like crap, and I couldn't ever figure out what was wrong. So I ended up replacing everything on one of my quads, trying to figure it out. But I emailed Get FPV, and they had mentioned something about soft mounting the flight controller. And then me and a buddy of mine were up late one night talking about it, and he had seen something, I think on RC groups, about somebody had just loosened the nuts up on their standoffs to allow the flight controller to free float, and everything looked great. So I come down that night and started working with it. So I've got 4 quads, one of which is hard mounted now and runs perfect. And then I went three different directions with it. So on my qav-r, I don't know if you can hardly see it here, so all I did was take a few layers of double-sided tape, stacked them up underneath the LUX, stuck it down, took out all the vibrations. It runs great. My favorite frame as of right now, the qav-r MXP 200. On this one, they sent little rubber O-rings with the kits. So I put the O-rings on the standoffs, slid the LUX flight controller on top of the O-rings, and then just kind of snugged up the nuts on top to where the O-rings held their form. They didn't squish out. And this is one where I ended up switching everything out, testing it. Once I put the LUX O-rings on it, it's perfect. It runs smooth as butter. And then last is the RP200 that hobbyn.com sent me to test out. This one gave me a hard time too, and it's one I have set up for racing. So I've got my transponder, everything stacked in here, and I didn't want to have to take it apart. So on this one, what I did was just loosen up the nuts, and for purposes of this video, I tightened the nuts back down, and I'm going to plug a battery in, throttle it up. We're going to see what it does. I'm going to go loosen the nuts back up and see if it helps, and that way kind of show that it does work. So first thing, we will power this up and see if we can get oscillations. Alright, so we just got a battery plugged in, arm the quad.
Engine on, engine off, engine on.
So it runs fine at idle. Throttle it up a little bit. Right there. So that was about 1/3 throttle. So let's jump past 3rd throttle. Right there's about half throttle to 2/3. So it's smooth again. Let's go on up. So on this one, it's good until you get 1/3 of the throttle, and for just a little bit, it goes crazy and it smooths out. So let's go back, and I'm going to loosen all the nuts up. So I'm going to just fast forward this real quick. Alright, so all I did was, the 4 nuts on the nylon standoffs, I just loosened those up just enough that when you grab the board, I don't know if you can see it here in the video, but when you grab the board, it barely wiggles. So, it pretty much just allows it to free float. And with these nylon standoffs, those nuts shouldn't come off. If you don't like it to where they're loose like that, get a little hot glue on it, or you can just take a knife and score the threads to where those nuts aren't going to want to move. But let's plug it back in and see how she runs now.
Telemetry recovered.
Alright, so plugged in, arm the motors,
Engine on.
and let's throttle up and see if I'm a liar. So smooth all the way through. And like I said,
Engine
the only thing I did was loosen up those nuts. So the Lux flight controller, people are steering away from it because of those oscillations. But I love the layout of the board. Everything on it is great. I haven't had any flight trouble with it once I figured out how to soft mount it. And I mean, don't let the oscillations like that scare you. You know, because it's as easy as, you know, I've got 3 different solutions here. All 3 work. Using the rubber O-rings underneath the board before you snug up the nuts, thick layer of double-sided tape, or something just as simple as allowing the board to free float in the mount. So, you know, like I said, don't let that scare you off. If you want to try the Lux, you won't be disappointed. I really enjoy it. It does great. I'll put a link in the description to allow you to be able to go and see what it's all about. But point of the video is there are solutions to get around the rough idle and rough throttle with the Lux flight controller. So I hope this answers some questions. I know there's a lot going around there right now, and appreciate you watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.